Hey, it's nice to see you guys. I know it's been about a week since I talked to you guys, but I mean, it was kind of a busy week, and I didn't want to come in on the middle of everything before we had a more solid picture of what's going on, right? So, good. There's two of you already. Good thumbs up. And do we have a lot to discuss? Okay, I actually had a neighbor knock on my door this morning and ask me, what do we do? What's going to happen to us? What happens next? There are a lot of people out there that are concerned about the future, but we kind of already have been for a while, haven't we? We didn't know exactly what was coming up in our future, but we knew to stock up on food. We knew it in our guts. We knew it by messenger. We knew it by news. We knew this, right? So we haven't really had a very good outlook so far. We're going to start by looking at the seals of the apocalypse briefly to go biblical to start, okay? And what I will start at, we've already been seeing the third seal, famine and pestilence, bugs, diseases, food shortages. Fourth seal is death. And it was reported today that 15 or 17 million minks are to be killed due to, what did that say? Denmark to kill 17 million mink linked to possible COVID-19 mutation. Okay. Mutation. Oh my God. Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen announced the drastic move on Wednesday as the death toll from Europe's second wave climbed sharply in some hard-hit countries. That's plural, countries. Frederiksen, who is self-isolating after close contact tested positive, said authorities had detected coronavirus strains in humans and mink, which showed decreased sensitivity against antibodies. She ordered the national cull with a heavy heart, but said mutations in the animal were a threat to the effectiveness of vaccine and developments around the globe. Now, obviously, death wouldn't just be coming for minks. It's for us too. But I always heard that it would start with the animals and eventually catch up with the humans. That's what I always heard in prophecy. Then we have to take a look at the fifth seal, which is a rise in persecution. Does that sound fun? Does it even sound familiar right now? Because it does to me. All right. Already, since Biden is claiming victory, we've had some very disturbing articles come out. One of which is called Gulags Soon? While Joe Biden preaches peace, his Democratic comrades they call them comrades. That's like a communistic term, if I'm not mistaken. Makes lists to punish Trump supporters during his presidency. And they also want to punish Trump officials. Okay. That's not okay. There's something in history that lines up a lot with what we're seeing now. But first, before we get to that history lesson, we're just going to go over a few of Dana Coverstone's visions that he had about this exact time that are actually making a lot more sense now that we're here. Okay. Let me see here. I'm going to check on everybody. Don't forget to hit like, share the video. And I'm so glad to see everyone. Yeah, payback. It sounds really scary, right? So people getting persecuted, right? That's what that sounds like. So much for democracy and being able to have our own opinions. Censorship is looking like that is going to be our future, But I did hear Candace Owens is suing fact checker. That was pretty funny news. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a new look at Dana's Coverstone's visions. I wrote down the highlights of what he said. First thing he said was, it got real in November. Punch to the calendar, cloud of chaos started, which So far, that's true. Armed protesters, that is true. Fighting in the streets, that is true. Businesses shut. Schools closed, I don't know, but the businesses have been shut. The banks are closing. They have been losing money. Okay. Wealth is being taken. Politicians. Now, this is what was interesting. He mentioned politicians making deals and laughing and smirking. And immediately after said people were being rounded up. And then he says Chinese and Russian soldiers handling different quadrants. UN soldiers, no sign of Trump, no sign of leadership. Vultures attacking, people hiding, churches burning. Now, churches burning, that could be a form of persecution, civil unrest. But here's the thing. I was just listening to Emergency Management. He's doing a live, I think, too, right now. But he literally was just saying that attack can absolutely be possible right now. His words were, America could be attacked, food is coming off the shelves, and that troops in Canada and Mexico are planning to enter the U.S. He's saying that's right now. Okay. All right. So far, what Dana is saying looks pretty spot on so far. So he has a second video concerning a second vision about November. He said there's cloud cover, circled November continuously, cities on fire. Trump victory challenged everywhere. There is a challenge going on about who the winner is, right? Protesters everywhere. A bell is ringing. That reminded me of like what they call that? The when the bell tolls, kind of a death thing. Bell rang. Violence over election results. That's already happening. Obvious winner is not so obvious, and the election is being contested, and the Supreme Court that it might be going there is being talked about a lot. Headlines declare that rebuilding will take a long time, and I believed at first it was just about the cities being on fire, but not an hour ago, I was listening to Ice Age Farmer say something interesting. He said, Building Back Better article. He featured this Building Back Better article about reinventing capitalism, but it's about building back better. And it also kind of goes along with what was said after 9/11, like we will rebuild, and something about sycamore trees. Does that sound familiar? It kind of sounds like that. We will rebuild. But Dana is saying basically that it will take a long, long time. And then he says that the Treasury Department winks sarcastically, like they might have something to do with it, but yeah, it could be rebuilt, but it's not really gonna, or they'll make sure of it, Okay, so far so good. All right, what does he say next? Because we do have more to talk about. Then he starts talking about now, because at first I thought this would be about Trump's victory, but now I see why Kamala Harris came in to the vision. She was driving a wagon led by two mules. Seems like it also has a historical factor there. Joe Biden is riding one of the mules. She has a mechanical box next to her that will trigger dynamite. While Kamala is whipping the mules along with Biden, Biden isn't even aware that he's being whipped. I guess that's kind of sounds like a lot like Biden. He just seems like he's not quite aware of what he's saying and doing often anyway. So that wouldn't be so hard. But the fact that he mentioned Kamala and Biden here lets me know, yeah, there were hints way ahead of time that something was wrong with this election coming up. Hillary is behind Trump. And this is also interesting, really interesting now, because she's in an unfinished dress that seems to be from the Stone Age. Gaudy ring with blood all over it. Skeleton key hanging from her neck that's really gross and bloody. She has a knife to the left side of Trump's throat. But the necklace on her that's dangling, it's leaving a double bolts Aryan symbol on her chest. And while he was not sure of her NAZI status, he wasn't saying necessarily that. That's where it clicked into my head. There is also right here a historical significance to what is going on right now, especially when you throw double bolts in. Okay. There was a bear trap near her leg. That should be Russia. Okay. She's about to step into a Russian trap somehow. Suddenly, Trump grabs a key, pulls it with his left hand, strikes her chin. She drops a knife, step back. He runs away. That's a little weird. I guess that's something we'll have to figure out what that means. He runs towards his beast car. But then he says there's an explosion. Kamala was the one with the dynamite earlier in the vision. The mules are now grilled carcasses. Biden is face down with tire tracks on the back of his head, and a vulture is sitting on top of it. Harris is crying, tears the size of quarters. So that tells me that she might be laughing now, but something is going to occur that won't make everything end that way. He's talking about buildings collapsing, divided church, that there won't be any more middle ground left. So, they always say a divided house can't stand. It's going to fall. All right. Fire on the altars, question marks above the heads of those praying, and confusion. There is a lot of confusion about what people are seeing. He says, brace yourself, you will see more shocking things. And as if to tell us or even hint towards the more shocking things, he starts talking about the Gulf of Mexico, the South, some kind of disaster. Businesses are shuttered. I know we do that during hurricanes, but we also do it during extreme situations. Like we know something's coming. Usually, yeah, you can't shutter your businesses up, board them up unless you know something's about to happen. Gas stations are walked away from. And at this time, we have articles out saying that Tropical Storm Eta gains strength as it approaches Florida. And I'm not saying that's the disaster per se, but there is activity that we can see that's actually happening at this time. But he's saying that the UN is going to step in to help host our nation. But our nation becomes very, very quiet. Seems like there was a comment also at some point that he had made, but I couldn't figure out where that was. But he said that the Democrats that were not radical enough will be punished along with Trump supporters. And that is one thing that I've seen before. I hate my amnesia, but I used to know that even if all the evil in the world eradicated all the good in the world, that the warring and the battling would never stop because they would turn and feed on each other. So for him to make a comment like that makes sense in my soul. But then he goes on to December and January. We're talking long food lines throughout the nation. Ships are idle and port. And I have heard messengers before say that at some point the shipments will stop. In fact, I've mentioned it too in my previous videos. At some point the shipments will stop coming in. And that's exactly what he's saying has happened in December and January. Ships are idle. Nothing is moving at sea. Baltic Index, the trade index, is dead. Shopping malls converted into shelters. Nationwide outages plague the Southwest. Americans don't know who to blame for the darkness. Light bulb is about to go out. But in the Bible, I remember they were talking about the 7 churches, right? Could easily, the angels of the 7 churches, we do have 7 continents, right? And that Bible verse, it just seems to stick out where he says, return to me or I will remove your candlestick out of its place, right? And here we are, we're talking about the lights going out. He's talking about depression, threat of nuclear war on the cities, suitcase bombs, market crash headlines, which we are having, maybe not market crash headlines exactly. We've had some really scary moments, but we're definitely getting the news that all these bubbles are about to pop and that homelessness is rising. So that's not, but I mean, for that to even just be there and it's rising now. He said this months ago, yields lost. He even mentioned, again, it's weird, sympathy for the sympathy for that symbol that the not NAZI people wore. I got to be careful with my language. You know what I mean? About robots. Might not like those words, but he did mention there was sympathy for that symbol. So that's another tap on my head like, we need to go back and look at that moment in time to see if we can find some information, because they say that if we don't remember history or learn from it, we're doomed to repeat it. Can I get an amen for that? Health and wealth gospel is about to face reality. And I can tell you, if everything that, because he's not the only one who's been seeing these things for years. I've been seeing it, but that would naturally come if they're saying, oh, everything's going to be fine. And then the war, like the perfect storm rolls through economically, war, and everything else, civil unrest. Yeah, the health and wealth gospel should take a hit. All right. And then he starts talking about basically the fall of America. I remember back in 2001 when the Trade Centers got hit, I was having lots and lots of visions. And I was telling one of my friends about it, and he asked me, he said, what's going to happen to America? And it just came out of my mouth. I didn't think it was happening right then. But I looked at him and I told him, America will fall. Knew that 19 years ago. But about exactly 19 years ago, I might have said it, to be honest with you. I want to thank everybody that's here right now. Hello, Micah. Trump might come with a sucker punch if he starts to put legal battles together. Trump might contest the vote. Oh, he is contesting. Why did God send Israel into captivity and bondage? That's right. That's exactly right, Knife Collector. Not following the commandments. They got rid of God. They did what was right in their own eyes, which is what Satan's motto is. It's right. It's do as thou wilt, meaning do what you want. You know, you don't need these restrictions. That's the way it is. That's how. But as soon as you start acting like you have no God better than your own decision making and yourself and what you want, that's when God gives us exactly what he did with other countries in the past, other cities, Sodom and Gomorrah, Babylon, Egypt, right? Even Israel, who decided to rebel during Prophet Jeremiah's time, right? So God being an unchanging God, right? In America, we saw the signs ahead of time, the Great American Eclipse, remember that? Then we had the woman of Revelation 12 sign, and everybody knew that we needed to repent, and we didn't. The blood moon started coming, right? And, it's a friend of mine online did ask a good question earlier. Is like, why would God allow these things? Why can't the saints heal us? And the truth I was telling him is that when God sends warnings through his prophets and messengers to repent and you don't, then God removes the hedge of protection from you or your nation or your city, whatever, however big this ring goes, he removes that hedge of protection and allows your enemies to come in. That's exactly how Jerusalem got destroyed 70, 80, I think it was. It was exactly for that reason. So we would have to have a major return to God. And it's not like we haven't had time, okay? So judgment has come, okay? And it's not good, okay? Because God likes to fill the cup double. And I'm pretty sure it's not going to be good. But fortunately, we still have lights in this world, not just America, people that believe in God and like to follow God, okay? So I believe that is in times of trouble, that even if you're not seeing it, there are people of God doing God's work. And yes, you will start to see those miracles, because I've been telling y'all, there will be a great revival. Some of y'all might have heard of that. It's also known as a Great Awakening, and it was also known as the Apocalypse, okay? A lot of people think that means the tribulation. It doesn't. The apocalypse is when something is revealed, like the woman of Revelation 12, kind of thing, revealed. But there is going to be a time of revival. There will. Okay, but things are going to get darker before the dawn. That's the way it goes. It's often when you're on your knees that you do begin to start praying. And I think that that's the very least we can do, is that no matter what storm is here, that you must trust in God. But JD Farag, I believe it was earlier today, said something really interesting, which I think he's right, that in some ways we have to let go of the things of this world. And I think the Bible even says something like, oh, it was just there on the tip of my tongue, like being too caught up in the cares of the world. We're too involved to a certain point that when we really need to put our eyes on God, no matter what it is we're seeing, no matter what is happening, to be holding on to Him for dear life. Okay. So if you haven't gotten saved, if you have questions in your mind that you need to ask, then you need to ask those questions. Okay. Whether you ask me or someone else, go do that. If they're, I'll often ask somebody, what is it? Why is it you haven't come to God? What is it that's holding you back? And sometimes it's not because they don't believe in it, it's because they haven't made peace. Sometimes they'll say they don't believe in God, but I think a lot of times they really do. But it's time. And one thing I always say, if you don't believe there's a God, go ahead and ask Him. Just be careful, because, his voice is it just goes right through you. Okay. When you hear it. All right. We're going to go on with what we're talking about. So next he talks about, and this is Dana Coverstone, a vision of Lady Liberty being attacked. And this is where I believe, in a way, that the candlestick is removed. Okay. He's talking about forceful winds and waves, severe storm. Again, mentioned to me, I'm thinking the perfect storm, when everything comes together in a perfect way. The torch is being struck by lightning, looking to say where the attacks are coming from. So it's not one attack, it's several attacks on Lady Liberty herself. Her crown, spikes on her crown is breaking apart. The torch keeps dropping. She's trying to hold the book of Constitution in her hand while the torch is dropping. She's losing footing. She falls off her pedestal, which to me says that where we were this great nation that overlooked the world, we are not so high. We're knocked off that pedestal. We're knocked off of that major country kind of name that has been over us for so long. Trying to hold on to declarations, but the light kept flickering. Again, candlestick being removed. It just keeps in my head. Declaration was cracked and falling apart, men attacking, but she's still trying to hold on. A valiant effort to survive fails. All right. Now, what I wanted to go into next was the history of how the NAZI party, I'll have to spell that out in your own head, how that started. And that wasn't very hard to look up on the internet at all, but I did go ahead and pull out some interesting bullet points. Just I only had time to get a few, but they, by declaring their party as Aryan, like what that mark on Hillary's chest and Dana's vision, that Aryan mark, by doing that, they identify others as lesser humans and create exiles. And so when you see articles coming out about them beginning to punish Trump supporters, that right there is making people that you don't agree with less value than you, and also people that need to be punished, and also thereby creating exiles. So that right there. And like I said, there were steps of how this came about, in World War II. It wasn't just one, it was a steady step, okay, a process. Okay, we got 5 likes, 9 people. That's great. Hello, AA Strumming. Do I think he'll get a second term? I don't know. I mean, even if he did, we've got so many problems. Like I said, the perfect storm. I'm not so sure that he has the power spiritually. I don't think anybody has the power to really stop God's judgment. And I think we all just kind of feel it. weighing on our country. I'm definitely not going to put my hand in the basket on whether or not he'll get a second term. I'm not going to guess on that one. I think it's going to be chaotic no matter what. God bless you too. Okay. More that I noticed, they had the National Socialism Party claiming to fight against communism, which is really strange to hear that. But they were socialist, and I often hear the left calling themselves a socialist group, okay? Aim to overcome social divisions. And that's what their propaganda was. What they were selling is that they were going to overcome social divisions. They just didn't tell you that they were going to kill lots of people, so there's nobody to argue with anymore. Originally, a term for the NAZI word was actually a term originally used before this war even happened to define a peasant or a farm worker. And I just keep thinking about how, they name call and call people deplorable. And I'll never forgive this person and da da da. It's very demeaning. Party was started after a depression and said its intentions were to unite Germany. So we can go over to what's called wikipedia.org, right? And there was these two quotes that I saw that were kind of just a slap in the face, sort of like not like I was insulted, but it just like gave me pause, really. Because this is history and it just sounds familiar. Like there's these undertones of history repeating itself. And so, but see, before World War II, it says today, our left-wing politicians in particular are constantly insisting that their craven-hearted and obsequious foreign policy necessarily results from the disarmament of Germany. Whereas the truth is that this is the policy of traitors. But the politicians on the right deserve exactly the same reproach. It was through their miserable cowardice that those ruffians of Jews who came into power in 1918 were able to rob the nation of its arms. So blame is being placed on a certain group of people. Okay. In a speech given in Munich on April 12, 1922, the NAZI leader, don't want to say his name, y'all know who it is. There are only two possibilities in Germany. Do not imagine that the people will forever go with the middle party. Now, this is interesting. The party of compromises. One day, it will turn to those who have most consistently foretold the coming ruin and have sought to disassociate themselves from it. And that party is either the left, and then God help us, for it will lead us to complete destruction, to Bolshevism, or else it is a party of the right, which at the last, when the people is in utter despair, when it has lost all its spirit and has no longer any faith in anything, is determined for its part ruthlessly to seize the reins of power. That is the beginning of resistance, of which I spoke a few minutes ago. So party blame is enacted. And then there's this weird talk about how it seems like they're talking about a sudden middle party. Right now, there is no middle party, but what if it's not a middle party they use, but just kind of one to say that they're uniting both parties, right? It would be like a new-ish looking kind of system. But here's the kicker. As of today, ISRH Farmer comes out and starts talking. Well, I mean, I think he's mentioned this before in his previous videos, but it came up again today. He called it happy-talism over capitalism and socialism. So there's that middle party that will unite everything. And basically, happy-talism is that we don't own anything anymore. We just rent what we need. And it gets delivered to us until we don't need it anymore, I guess, or something. See, the talk's there, is all I'm saying. All right, where are we? Okay. All right, good. Everybody's still there. Awesome. I'm ready to move on. Please do comment. I love your comments. I love to hear what you're thinking, what you might be seeing. Okay. All right. We're going to go back and we're going to read just a little bit of it. Okay. Kaiser Wilhelm II, who was pressured to abdicate the throne and flee into exile amidst an attempted communist revolution in Germany, initially supported the NAZI party. His 4 sons, including Prince Adalfredrik and Prince Oscar, became members of the NAZI party in hopes that, in exchange for their support, the NAZIs would permit the restoration of monarchy. How does all this sound and feel familiar for now? Okay. There were factions within that party, both conservative and radical. The conservative NAZI Hermann Göring urged that big guy in that war to conciliate with capitalists and reactionaries. I guess to reconcile. Other prominent conservatives included Heinrich Himmler, Reinhard Heydrich. Meanwhile, the radical opposed capitalism, viewing it as having Jews at its core, and he stressed the need for the party to emphasize both proletarian and a national character. Has anybody else been hearing about a rise in anti-Semitism lately, especially in America? All right. When the party emerged from obscurity to become a major political force after 1929, the conservative faction rapidly gained more influence as wealthy donors took an interest in this party as a potential bulwark against communism, which is weird. Because I thought, socialism is Marxism, is communism. I must be wrong about that. I don't know why I just keep seeing that, that's like they were against communism. Like, what are they? Is that what they're saying they were against, or what is that? That party had previously been financed almost entirely from membership dues, but after 1929, its leadership began actively seeking donations from German industrialists. This is how it just kept going and going and going. You can read more about it, but I'm telling you, there are some historical connections in the process of how World War II began before and what is happening now. And it was after Depression, but it also mentioned, Dana had also mentioned like wagons too, right? Which would have been a time for World War I. And what started World War II had something to do with what was left over really from World War I, concerning the Germans anyway. So they're talking about nationalism and, racial theories, anti-Semitism. We're all right's always being called racist, fascist. The Jews were called bad, the problem. The reason for everybody's problems, it has to be blamed on somebody so that the anger can be taken out on somebody. But see, that's what they do. They use your emotions to confuse you and to control you so that you are being controlled by your emotions. You're not controlling your emotions. You're out of control. That's what they want. Okay? And for anybody, it doesn't matter who you are. You never want to lose control inside of yourself. All right. So we're going to I would like it if you would go ahead on your own time and check out history and see if you can find any more correlations yourself, because I bet you won't be disappointed at all. Oh, thank you, Micah. Thank you very much. Very much. That's actually really great. We should definitely check out New York. And weren't they saying that yeah, somebody was. We'll talk about that in just a second. Okay. So Ice Age Farmer did come out today with a video called 2020 Election, Dark Winter, Great Reset, which is a financial collapse type of thing. You'll own nothing, which turns out to be the happy-talism that, we were just discussing. Building Back Better article featured about reinventing capitalism. That sounds fun. You know, if I had to deal with math and politics at the same time, I think I'd probably be one of the most unhappy people on the face of the planet. You couldn't. No, nope, nope. I don't know what kind of person it takes to be interested in capitalism and just money and politics, basically. That's just, whew, it's way too crazy, but he does also say COVID to bring more lockdowns. Food shortages beginning in earnest. That's what Sage is saying now, that the food shortages are already beginning in earnest. And we just heard Dana say that by December, January, there will be food lines, right? COVID to bring more lockdowns. That should be fun. I mean, who doesn't want to be imprisoned in their own home, right? We all should just sit here and do nothing and be happy. No, I think we're going crazy. More lockdowns. It's no wonder the suicide rate is going up. My gosh. Anyway, so JD Frog comes in today. He always does a Sunday prophecy update. And he mentioned some things today that I thought were pretty incredible and on point, okay, with what we've been talking about this entire live stream. JD Frog mentions rioting in Michigan and Washington. There's unrest in Los Angeles, Washington, Portland, and Raleigh. National Guard called into Portland. And how we were just talking about New York City or New York, clashes with the police and protesters are happening in New York City. Excuse me. Israeli Prime Minister warns of war if Biden returns to the Iran deal. That could happen. Grocery chains are already, and this is what JD Frog is saying, okay? So we just had Ice Age say food shortages are starting now. JD Frog says grocery chains are already limiting toilet paper and sanitizing products again. It's already happening. All right. Cuomo increasing National Guard at airports. National Guard at airports. And you know what they're going to be doing? Stopping untested travelers. Right? So despite the fact that I say I've never had the COVID ever, suddenly I'm a threat. You see what I mean? Why would I need to get tested unless I'm getting a surgery or I'm thinking I might have it? You know what I'm saying? Why would I get tested? I mean, it's like, hey, I would like you to fix my broken arm before anything even happens to it. Just go ahead and put that cast right on. Yeah, I know I'm perfectly fine, but it could happen. That's crazy. That's just crazy for me. You don't need to treat perfectly healthy human beings like we're the plague. Anyway, I am hearing that COVID numbers are going up. But I mean, seriously, if y'all know anything about what I've been saying, is that the magnetosphere is weak and we're going through a magnetic pole reversals, that viruses, bacteria, diseases, plagues will mutate. These viruses, of course, they're going to mutate now. So I'm saying, even if they weren't doing it in a lab, they could not be. It could, but I'm saying this can actually happen by itself naturally right now, scientifically. Okay. So if you just keep looking at COVID, then you might be missing some other bad germy situations coming. Like, say, what if COVID's just the first? What if something else comes after, like worse? You can't just think, not in this situation, that this is the only plague we're going to get. That can't be right. There's got to be more, scientifically speaking. Okay. And then I wanted to give a quick mention to Dmitry Duduman and Chuck Youngbrandt. Dmitry Duduman had said that America would burn. Chuck Youngbrandt talked about the Chinese and Russian invasion before it happened, as well as Dmitry Duduman, but Chuck was the one who said that the United States would be tied up with internal issues when America was invaded by the Chinese and the Russians. Okay? That's what Dana's saying too, is yeah, we've got all these problems, and then suddenly there are Chinese and Russian troops. And then right before I even get on here from on live stream, Emergency Management Associates emergency preparedness report for today, he says that America could be attacked. Food is coming off the shelf. There's another third person here that's saying right now food is coming off the shelves, and that troops are in Canada and Mexico are planning to enter the U.S. Okay? So we're thinking all these food lines, stores shutting down, gas stations shutting down, banks shutting down. Might be a good time to be saving those seeds out of your fresh produce while you still can. And if you haven't thought about growing food, you should. Winter's coming, I know, but let me tell you something. Winter crops do happen, and if this is going to be a hard enough winter like they say it is, you could grow those saffron flowers. And saffron, you get the pistils, I think they're called, out of the center of those flowers that grow in the snow, okay? And it's actually a pretty expensive spice, saffron. You should check that out. Nobody would ever, unless they know what it looks like and what it is, they probably wouldn't think you have anything but flowers. They wouldn't know that you have a crop that's worth money. You know, you got to have covert gardening, I'll throw basil in among high grass, people might not notice that, or just stuff like that. You might want to learn about your terrain, your area, and your wild food that you can forage for, certain types of mushrooms, okay? And if you're anything like me, that lives pretty close to salt water, distilling salt water should also be something that you might want to look into as well. I'm going to go ahead and check the comments super fast. Okay. AA strumming, yes, I heard of the rise of it. Glazerin said the Bible Code and Torah reveals the second Holocaust, and also says Biden president court snake. Very scary stuff. Yeah, right? It's kind of scary how many messengers have had a lot of the same visions. And I'm telling you, even some of my visions have been about some of these things, like the Russian Chinese invasion, food shortages. I saw visions like that too. Mine are never political visions. I don't, so far, I haven't had a single one in my entire life. Usually when I have vision, it's about bad things though. What in the heck? Ugh. Anyway, I hate it when I lose my train of thought. That kind of makes sense with what I'm working on. Not a secret, but I want to understand what I'm looking at, right? Okay, that one's to Knife Collector. I really wish I had gotten into aquaponics more than before, I guess, more than TBH. It's good for survival. Yep, but here's the thing. Aquaponics is only one level of survival. If you have to run out of your home, per se, because there are troops knocking at your front door telling you need to get in their little caravan van, go to their place with them, which you should not do. You should be running. Chances are you're going to be in the woods. You should have a go bag, some kind of plan, but you should also be able to forage for your own food and, tell the difference between poisonous and non-poisonous berries and stuff like that, So you got to think, what if you can't, because after they round up a lot of these people, there will still be houses that are abandoned, but they had all this food and stuff in them, and that's why people would probably be seen hiding in homes, because Something terrible happened. They don't want to be noticed anymore. They're hiding. Okay. But they got their coats on, so there's obviously no heat. Sounds like there's no electricity, right? To be honest, thank you. Sometimes, I'm not on the up and up. I'm really glad that you aren't really mean to me about that. Something, because I have no idea what's going on with some of these things, like, abbreviations. I don't know all the time. Okay, we got 8 right now, 6 likes. Thank you very much. Awesome. I appreciate it. Okay, so, I know that a lot of you might really not like to hear what I have to say, as far as, because I'm not giving you the greatest news, right? But I'm telling you, I'm a planner. I hate being blindsided. I hate it. I would rather hope for the best and plan for the worst than not do anything at all. I mean, if I see that something's wrong and then I see another sign and another sign, I'm going to do something. I'm going to make sure, okay, while I can stay in, can I survive? If I have to leave, can I survive? You see what I'm saying? You got to at least entertain the possibility. Because those who don't prepare, I'm going to tell you right now, are going to regret it with everything in them. If you haven't prepared at all, oh man, is life about to be really hard. And I'm not talking just for us lowly people down here on the bottom. I'm talking for the rich ones, the CEOs too. Everybody from the top down. If you ain't prepared, you should probably be scared. I will tell you this, that God has been taking care of my family. God takes care of his own. Somehow these miracles, they happen. All right? So even though things look scary, there's really never even, not when you believe in God. You know why? Because then you're not afraid of death. I mean, people, they act so shocked. I could have died. Like, they never considered the possibility that they could. And that causes people to do irrational things. But if you don't have the worry of whether, that connection to the world that is so fierce that you're actually afraid to die, then you need to check that thought. Because really, once you're in God's hands, there's really nothing ever to be scared of. We're never alone. We're in a very important time in history, future, biblical. This is us. You want to know what's going to happen next? Crack open some Bible prophecy. All right. And if you think things are bad now, no, because the birth pangs get closer and closer together. And our magnetic north, it's not just been moving. Now it's moving faster. That's a bad sign, right? The South Atlantic anomaly is growing. And that's where the magnetic poles are reversed. Now, you want to talk about the Bermuda Triangle? Wonder why the compasses don't work? That's because there's a huge magnet somewhere in that area. I'm not kidding you. Something magnetic or reversed magnetically is going on in that area. That's the only thing really that would cause those compasses to spin like that. It's the truth. And yes, you can become disoriented because we are also affected by magnetics. Okay? Yep. I think that what's really scary is that the attacks are about to be on everyone. On everybody. Okay? Now, maybe, unlike the rest of this year has been, maybe suddenly everything is going to be okay. And everybody's going to magically unite and sing Happy Talism songs. And the food's going to magically appear and stop rotting on our vines. Right? That's likely to happen. Does that look like that's likely to happen? And pestilence will just go away all by itself. Or man will find a way to eradicate it all by himself. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I think the writing is on the wall. All right? What is it? Mene tekel tarkal? You've been weighed. You have been measured. You've been found wanting. What's that third seal of the apocalypse? compare balances. All right. Question is, what is it we wanted? What is it we still want? What is it we should have wanted? How did we weigh out in the balance? If you take a look around at the judgments, I would bet we were found wanting. All right, y'all. I am going to go ahead and end this live stream, but I wanted to thank everyone that came. And I also wanted to mention, especially to my friend Tammy, that I didn't do a Mike from Around the World update this week because really there was so little that was said. It was kind of boring. You know, there wasn't anything really that I felt I could take from. They didn't talk that long. So maybe if something less like small talk comes up, then I'll give y'all a holler. You know, if it's something that I feel like we all just didn't know or need to know, yeah, we'll do that. Hopefully it won't be. I mean, it's hard enough for me to get through those as it is because they just really go here and go here and go here and go here. It's really crazy making. The only way out is the hard way this time. Nothing's going to be easy anymore. But when you're the Lord, there is usually a way. You might not see it coming, but I'll tell you this, when you trust in God, that's usually all you need. That's all you need. You trust, it comes. Okay? I love all you guys, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you all for coming. Good night.